is called Excel system.
Nice. I like that.
Love it. All right, let's move along to some injury report updates here. All right, this was Matt LaFleur when asked about Christian Watson. Let's see what he had to say about Christian Watson. As you guys know, the window is open that they can activate him, right? Any day now. Will it be in Arizona this week? Will it be next week in Pittsburgh? Will they wait the following week? We're going to find out soon enough. But here's what Matt LaFleur had to say about it earlier today. And again, I got the volume cranked up. Hopefully you guys can hear it enough.
You bring Christian Watson back?
We'll see.
God, Matt.
He looked in the team stuff that he's done.
He looks great. He looks great. It's just trying to build up to where we feel comfortable for him to go out there and perform. And also where he feels like he's got enough practice in as well.
All right, so there you go. Matt LaFleur and
There
asked
you
about
go.
Christian.
Translation.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So when Matt LaFleur, when asked about Christian Watson's potential return this week, quote, "We'll see. He looks great. It's just trying to build up where we feel comfortable for him to perform and also where he has enough practice in as well." So sounds like he's completely healed, ready to go. They're just trying to get him ramped up, game speed, that type of thing. Emilio, what do you think? Do you think there's a chance that Christian plays this week? To me, it still feels like it's at least another week, man.
Yeah, I think it's probably a week out, but if he has a great week, maybe. It feels like Matt's entire answer in his press conference was, "We'll see." You know, how Christian's doing, we'll see. How McManus is doing, we'll see. And that's just how you got to play it to play the game, though, right?
Jacob, what do you think, man? You think we'll see Christian this week or not?
I don't. And the only reason, even if he is 100% and ready to go, and even if he convinces the training staff, the coaching staff, the front office, whatever you want to say, I think that it's been highlighted that the Packers have a reputation. I don't know if it's necessarily true. I could go both ways with certain arguments, but you go back over the last few years, there has been a sort of a pattern of seemingly rushing guys in too early and having them immediately re-injure or have another injury that ends up costing them more time. And I just don't think that that's something we want to risk again with Christian Watson specifically, because the last time this happened, it was because I would argue that we probably put a little too much pressure on the kid or allowed him to kind of think with his ego or a little more of his just wanting to be out there. And I think that at certain situations that it's up to the Packers staff, whether that be the training staff, the front office, whatever it be, to limit these guys and say, "Hey man, for your best interest, we need you to just chill for one more week. We want to make sure that we, cross the T's and dot the I's and the umlauts and make sure that, that when you come back, you are ready to go." At the same time, though, the other edge of that sword is that it's football. You got to be able to play in the NFL and take these types of hits. So we can't put bubble wrap over these guys. It's just not the way it works. But that being said, I don't think we're going to force them back this week.
Yeah, and Tim, Rob Domofsky tweeted this out too. I want to get your take on this, Tim. Packers offense coordinator Adam Stenavich on Christian Watson's ramp up in his return from ACL surgery. Quote, "Every day he's taking a few more reps, and hopefully someday soon we'll get him out there." Added that Watson has looked good with what he's done in practice so far. Still feels like we're a couple weeks out, don't it, Tim?
I think so. That's where my gut is. I think we're all kind of in agreement on that. But, listening to Scoot's own words, he never really took a day off. He had the surgery and it was right into rehab. It was right into getting to the point that he's at right now. And I'm not opposed to him playing 5 or 10 snaps in Arizona, if that means, he's got the pads on, get out there, block somebody to the water cooler and pull him to the sideline just to get some game speed reps going as you get him ready for this, really tough part of the schedule, man. We got Arizona, then Pittsburgh. These are 2 games we have to have, one of them being extremely difficult the way the Steelers are playing. So whatever you can do to get Scoot, acclimated and ready to roll, I'm all for it. But also to Jacob's point, you don't want to run a guy out there and have him go right back to IR, So it's kind of a tough spot to be in if you're making this decision. But I think if you ask Christian Watson, he'd say he's ready to go,
And although we'll be playing indoors in Arizona this week, they do have real grass, as 2-0 for this points out. It's that field that they actually roll out on rollers out to get sun and bring it back in. I think that's the coolest thing ever. Mm-hmm. I could handle indoor football a little bit easier if they just played on grass, but the fact that it's turf, indoors, all this, I just can't stand. It's just not real football. So, Emilio, maybe you can get that contract down there, man.
Yeah, I'll be striping it. No problem.
I'll be watching you like that. So here's Christian Watson at practice earlier today. To me, he looks good. Again, they're just ramping him up. So I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but that's kind of where we're at there with Christian Watson. Rob Domofsky tweeted out Dontavion Wicks, who left Sunday's game with an ankle injury, was back at practice. Safety Javon Bullard also back after being unable to finish the game. And Christian Watson begins week 2 of the 3-week practice window. So Tay Wicks out there is a good sign as well. Obviously, you want as much depth as you can get at wide receiver. I think Dontavion Wicks is off to a solid start. I know he hasn't gotten quite the targets that he probably wants, but I don't think anybody in this offense does.
Yeah.
I don't think Tucker. If anybody needs more targets, it's Tucker. The problem is there's only one ball.
Yep.
Right.
You talk about Tay Wicks. I mean, he's still drop free so far this year, correct? I mean, so the targets aren't where we'd like them, but every time he's targeted, he's making a catch. Got to love it.
Leave it to Bates to come in here because there's a little discussion in the chat going on as to what type of turf/grass they have at these stadiums. Bates says the grass at Lambeau Field is a blend of Kentucky blue, a Tifway 419 Bermuda grass, reinforced with the Dezo grass meter hybrid system. Everybody obviously knew that, United Bates, but thank you for highlighting it for some of us that maybe forgot. But no, I really honestly appreciate that. Anytime I hear
Grassmaster hybrid system, meaning a gigantic sewing machine for the
Right.
field.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, for every 4 blades of grass, there's one fake piece of grass, and it goes down. What is it, like 12 inches or something,
Yep.
Tim? And loops under,
Yep.
comes back up.
We took a tour not too long ago, and they held up a strand of the synthetic fiber, and yeah, it's pretty long for sure.
That was that machine they flew down to Brazil to stitch the field before the Chiefs or
latest
whoever
one.
played there at
Yeah.
the beginning of this year. So
Yeah. And as Jen Wright points out, listen, we're all about grass, but not that kind of grass, Jacob. Calm down. But Jen Wright says grass surface in Pittsburgh is awful. Boy, did you guys see that field?
I texted the group chat. I was watching the game last week. I'm like, my goodness, did somebody drive through there with a tractor and do donuts before the game? Or I don't know what's going on. It makes you think twice. I mean, Jen brings up a good point. Like, is that the game we want to bring Scoot back,
Right.
in Pittsburgh, playing on that disaster?
And the problem with that field, Tim, if I understand correctly, is the University of Pittsburgh. Pitt plays on that field as well. So it's constantly getting chewed up, right? So the day before, maybe if they – and now I'm sure they try to stagger the home games. How the hell Pitt, University of Pitt don't have their own field is just mind-boggling to me. But anyway, so all right, injury report, Packers side. Then we'll jump into the Cardinals side real quick. Aaron Banks limited again. Anthony Belton limited. Warren Brinson full participation. Javon Bullard was officially not listed now. Okay, so he's good to go with the concussion. Matthew Golden full participation. Josh Jacobs was limited still from the illness. Brandon McManus with a right quadricep did not practice again. I think they're going to probably go with Haversick again, right? I think that will be the plan there. Jacob Monk was limited. Jordan Morgan limited. Zach Tom was did not participate on Wednesday and then ramped up to limited today. I think it's safe to say he's going to be playing until he has, unless he has some kind of setback. I think he's going to be good to go. Lucas Van Ness did not participate. I feel 100% positive he's out this game, right?
Yeah.
Christian Watson limited, Dontavion Wicks limited, and Devontae Wyatt did not participate. So obviously no Lucas Van Ness, no Devontae Wyatt, which I love Devontae Wyatt. I think he's an up and coming star on the Packers, but man, I'm excited to see if Warren Brinson does what he did last week again, because he was impressive. 12.5% pressure rate, I think, and PFF grade of over 80, if I remember right. When you look at the tape and you see him pushing the pocket and throwing spin moves on cats, and then you look at the PFF grade and it lines up, and then you go to NFL Pro GPS tracking and you see pressure rate at 12.5%, all 3 boxes are checked. Probably a pretty darn good game, right? So,
Yep.
What do y'all think of the injury report? Anything concern you there? Is there anything that I'm missing by chance?
LVN, like you said, LVN probably not going to go this weekend. I'm looking to JJ and Nick Barry to step up. We need guys to step up in this situation, because this could be a game that, flip a coin. We should beat the Cardinals, right? But we're already down heavy D on the line. Now you're talking about LVN missing time. We need those guys, next man up mentality. We need guys to step up. So I'm looking at Enigbare to have a pretty big game this weekend.
I agree with that, Tim. Is Sorrell healthy?
Yeah, he's good to go from what I understand. He was back out there at practice today.
To
so,
Tim's
yeah.
point, I would agree completely with what he just said, but I would maybe, instead of highlighting JJ, highlight the fact that I want to see more out of Barron. We talked about what Brinson did as a young guy who finally gets a shot, and he's looking pretty lethal out there. I want to see the same type of thing because we've seen it in absolute little small stints. Every time that he's been on that field, I thought he flashed, and it wasn't just once or twice. It was in preseason, it was in mini camp, it was in OTAs, it was now when he finally got time in regular season. Let's give that man a little more snaps and see how.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm excited. Bulls got cleared from that concussion eval. I know Coach was talking about it being, more of like a stinger after the game, and he said that he was fine and stuff. So happy that he's off already by Thursday. That's huge. Matthew Golden, just, hoping that it's nothing crazy. Maybe you'll see him with one of them straps to, keep it tied down or whatever. Probably a little sore. But the only other one is, I think you're right, Clay, but I think McManus is probably not going to kick this week, and like Matt said, Wednesday and Friday are their kicking days. If he's not kicking on Friday, yeah, he probably can go out and kick on Sunday. But if you've already had Haversick out there, he got to see what it was like on practice win today, and got to kind of see all that stuff. So you get him those reps and how he kicked last week. I think you just run with it.
We saw that on Sunday at Lambeau with McManus pleading his case before the game. They went up until pregame and ultimately decided to hold him out. So I agree, Emilio. I think they're going with the USFL kid, man.
Right, and that could be signed. Tim, that could be the training crew. Like, hey, all right, we want to, we want to hold him out, or Goody wants to hold him out, Rich wants to hold him out. And even though the player wants to go, someone's got to make that executive decision at some point and say, no, I can't let you. And that's the same thing with Christian Watson and anybody else.
Yep. Especially considering the way he kicked for us too. He answered the bell. I mean, half the team didn't even know his name, and he went out there and got it done for us. So all the more reason to have confidence in him.
Yeah, I still can't pronounce his name, and I was his biggest fan on Sunday.
Haversick?
Yeah, Haversick. I always say Haversick, Havsarick.
Have a kick. How about that?
Hey,
there
we go.
What a guy! I tell you.
Arizona Cardinals side here. Only thing that changed, Kelvin Beachum, offensive lineman with the veteran rest. Of course, he's full participation. We expected that. Katan Crawford went from limited to did not participate. He's a safety on the squad. All right. Akeem Davis Gaither went from limited to full participation. He plays linebacker for the Cardinals. And then you had going from limited to full participation was Zonovan Knott, running back. And then, of course, you've got Nichols, defensive lineman, not listed. Okay, so he's back to full health there. He's good to go. And, of course, full participation was Dadrian Taylor Demerson and Michael Wilson, wide receiver. Obviously, Demerson is a safety, so they're back to full participation. The big one we want to keep our eye on, though, is obviously our boy Kyler Murray, right, with the foot injury. He stayed limited, all right? However, Mike Garafolo threw a tweet out right before we went live here earlier tonight, I believe. Well, it's when I seen it. It was right before we went live. It may have been sooner. But here's what Garafolo did. He quote tweeted Darren Urban, who covers the Cardinals over at Cards Chatter. During an open part of Arizona Cardinals practice, Kyler Murray working but with practice squad pass catchers. Brissett and Slovis with regular pass catchers. Murray looked okay throwing, however. So I can't imagine they would be trying to ramp him up to play this Sunday and having him only throwing to the practice squad receivers. Now, you could look at this one of two ways, right? Emilio, you could look at it like, are they playing chess and not checkers? They want the Packers to prepare more for Brissett by hearing this information? Or, the downside to that, Emilio, is you're missing out on meaningful reps with Kyler Murray getting back on page with his starting receivers. What do you think, man? You think we'll see Kyler Murray? How do you read into this?
Yeah, thinking from listening to some of those interviews, and they were asking the coaches, they asked X the same thing. They're getting the feeling that it's going to be Brissett. I'm probably thinking the same thing. Just the way they're probably looking at it the same way. It's probably a long season. Yeah, they've lost all 4 games by like 9 total points. So they've been in games. They're a good team. If they could turn something around, maybe they get going. But if they're worried about Kyle, I think they would keep him out a little bit longer, let that heal up. And you got 300 passing yards from Jacoby last week. So you have a good trade-off. You've got a decent option. Can your backup steal you a win? I think that's something that we figured out last year. That's a big thing in this league. And I think that you just kind of got to lean on him. But I do think it'll be Brissett starting. But it's also put our defense in a pickle all week trying to, prepare for both, asking what quarterback's out there and stuff.
Yeah, and the concept shouldn't change, Jacob, right? They should still try to attack us the same way on offense or similar anyway. It's just those traits, right? And maybe Brissett is more likely to scramble than Kyler Murray. I know that sounds silly with Kyler Murray being just an absolute dog in terms of, foot speed, all that stuff. But it's been kind of proven in the past that Kyler Murray wants to sit in the pocket. And Brissett, if he's not getting to the reads on time, maybe he's more likely to scramble than someone like Kyler Murray. Definitely got to have some kind of spy installed there, Jacob, when it comes to Sunday, man.
Yeah, I agree. But I think what maybe a lot of people I shouldn't say looking past, but maybe aren't considering is if, let's say, they're not with Kyler Murray, then obviously that's probably a benefit to the Packers defense. Also, what should be thought about is James Conner is on IR for the rest of the year. His backup, Trey Benson, who I had a lot of fantasy draft stock in, so that's great. He's also out. DeMercado is the guy that decided he wanted to let the ball just fly out of his hands at the 5-inch line. And to Coach's point, I believe he highlighted, AZ running back Knight flashed a bit last week, but this is kind of a carousel that they got going on there. So if we are able to limit the running game almost, even to just a little bit compared to what we've allowed in a couple of games where we kind of got a little bit, I don't want to say lazy, but just allowed a little bit too much garbage yards and that sort of stuff. Last week we obviously picked it up, but if we have to have them running a fourth string running back with the second string quarterback, it's not going to be run the same as if a Kyler Murray and James Conner are back there. It's just a completely different offense. We do have to still worry about guys like Trey McBride and Harrison Jr. and those types of guys. They do have some guys that can flash, but I just want to we've learned it many times this year not to count your chickens before they hatch, but I would feel good about this Packers defense. Now all we got to do is go on the road and actually play up to our standard.
Yep.
All right. So there's your injury report. Tim, you got anything else to add to the injury report before we dive into a dirtbag watch?
Dirtbag watch. We got a new guy this week. But no, just to piggyback off Emilio's point, I think Brissett's probably your starter, but I also do think that it shouldn't shock anybody if Kyler Murray does go. It could be a little gamesmanship at this point. But, to your point, Clay, why is he throwing with the 2s and 3s this late in the week? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Let's hit a couple Patreon questions and we'll get to